What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez, and today we continue to talk about what we saw in Week 3 in what was a crazy game against the Tampa Bay Bucks. They ultimately lose that game by 2 points. We're down in the first half after a pick six, all the way down to 20-6. It became 23-6 in the second half, and then the Jets come storming back, right? Highlighted by the Will McDonald block field goal and take it to the house, where they actually took a 27-26 lead, but then Baker Mayfield leads a drive to get the game-winning field goal, and the Jets fall to 0-3. Hopefully, you don't fall away from the Jets' latest channel, and you can even become an insider. Remember, click on that link in the description. You can become a Jets' latest insider, get access to exclusive content, get access to other support in the fantasy football, in the sports betting world, all sorts of other perks as we continue to go on in this 2025 season for the green and white. But the first thing I want to talk about, and we said it after week 1, right? The idea of moral victories, right? But it's not a moral victory. Aaron Glenn has been clear. He doesn't talk about moral victories, but are there flashes? Is there more faith that you have in this team? Has this team showed fight? Have they made progress despite being 0-3? I told you at the beginning of the year, I'm not interested really in the record. I think the schedule opens up. I think there's games that are winnable down the road. But the thing is, does it look better? Aaron Glenn has even said, are we proud of this team? And if you look at it by that metric, despite being 0-3, I think there are some things. And Aaron Glenn said as much after the game against Tampa. Check this out. He goes, man, they fought their ass off. I love every one of those guys for how they came out in the second half. We didn't do anything different when it comes to mentality and what we're trying to do. The pace had to pick up a little bit on offense, but they were just small, critical things we got to get better at, and we will do that. Today showed me a lot about who we are as a team and who we're gonna be. A number of things we gotta correct, and there's no such thing as moral victories when it comes to us. We are not the same team at all. That's in reference to everybody being like, same old Jets. This is the same old Jets, winless Jets. He goes, I'm looking forward to our next challenge against Miami. We're gonna go to work next week, look at what we need to fix, and hone in on that. I give a lot of credit to the way these guys came out and fought. We gotta correct those things when it comes to turnovers, look at the penalties, etc. And that was really what it comes down to. Again, I mean, the turnover margin. We are now -4 in the turnover margin. That is tied for the 3rd worst in the NFL. And remember, the fumble that Gibson had against Pittsburgh completely changed the game. A pick 6 at the very end of the first half completely changes the game, gets us off schedule, and takes away some of what we're able to do. We're not really able to run the ball if we're down by 2 or 3 scores, right? The penalties, some of the same penalties. Remember that pass interference on 3rd and 29 against Sauce that I didn't think was PI, but hey, some pre-snap penalties are really drive killers, and those are some of these things that still have to be cleaned up. But listen, I gotta tell you, I've been preaching patience. I know you don't want to hear it at 0-3, but that's part of why Aaron Glenn was clapping at the end of that game, right? Because he liked that fight. There are things to kind of see as positives, in my opinion. He was reinforcing the effort, the pride, and that's part of the character building that I'm talking about that is going to take time. He talks about how big ships turn slow. He keeps on talking about that this is not an instant coffee kind of team. I'm telling the fan base right now, don't start going the sky is falling. Don't start saying things about, Steve Wilkes, Tanner Engstrand, Aaron Glenn. We have to take time. We've had 3 games against teams who are combined record are 8-1 and made the playoffs last year. Okay, I told you, and listen, we lost a 60-yard field goal on one of them at the end of the game. We lost by 2 on the road to another team's home opener in another one. Outside of laying an egg against Buffalo, I think there are small things to build on to think that this is not just the same old Jets. I made a lot of comparisons to the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell before the season started. And I want to remind everybody, the Dan Campbell, Jared Goff first season, they started 0-10-1. They finished that year 3-13-1. I have been preaching patience. You got to keep on having the faith the same way Aaron Glenn does, the same way it looks like these team leaders do. You go from being a team that finds ways to lose to a team like, look all the way on the other side of the spectrum, the Kansas City Chiefs. they find ways to win, right? And they have faith that they're just going to pull it out. They wind up getting lucky like in 6 or 7 games last year. And they go all the way to the Super Bowl, right? When they had a point differential on the negative, but went something like 5-1 in a 6-game stretch where things always seem to happen. The penalties, the missed field goals, the blocked field goals, that sort of stuff. And it takes time to understand that, to build that faith, that fight. That's what I'm talking about. I think that's what Aaron Glenn is talking about. One guy, however, that we do not need to continue to build is our stud wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson had another big game yesterday. 10 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown against Tampa on Sunday, right? He's now in the top 10 in so many categories, okay? 30 targets, that's 4th in the NFL. A 39% target share. Almost 40% of the throws are going to Garrett Wilson. Tied for 4th with a pretty big name, Jamar Chase, when it comes to receptions. 7th in the NFL and receiving yards. But here's the issue. No other Jets wideout after 3 games has more than 6 targets, 4 catches, or 63 yards, and that's all Tyler Johnson. Point I do want to make here, though, is Josh Reynolds has missed the last 2 games because of a hamstring injury. Josh Reynolds, and I know people didn't think it was sexy, but Josh Reynolds is the number 2 wide receiver for this team, and he hasn't been here for the last 2 games. We need Josh Reynolds back, in my opinion. He will be able to help. He is a veteran. He is a hands guy. We saw Tyler Johnson drop one. We saw Arian Smith dropped one. We saw Mason Taylor not convert. These are things that maybe Josh Reynolds on 3rd down, having another valid wide receiver, can help. But we also need to stay on schedule. I was talking about that success rate metric that we had in week 1 that hasn't been there in week 2. We can't be in obvious passing situations where teams can just tee off and then only have Garrett Wilson out there. Josh Reynolds can alleviate some of this, so hopefully he can get back from that hamstring injury. I know it's not a sexy name, but I do think Josh Reynolds returning can help this pass offense as a stabilizing force. But Garrett Wilson has been amazing, literally one of the top wide receivers in the NFL through 3 games, okay? And the other thing I want to talk about here is Tyrod. And, Tyrod was really efficient at the beginning. I think he completed 9 of his first 10 passes, right? He threw the pick 6, and then in the second half, they kind of got into a rhythm, and Aaron Glenn said that. I mean, the Jets scored 21 points in the 4th quarter. Tyrod finished with 197 yards. He added 48 yards on the ground, had the 2 touchdowns. Listen to what Aaron said about him and Tanner Engstrand actually finding their rhythm in the second half. He goes, I think Tanner did a really good job of getting the calls that we knew he liked in. We got them in a more rapid pace in the second half. Once those guys get in a rhythm, they start to see the game a lot quicker, and things really slow down for them. I thought that's what happened in the second half. The things that we have to do is start the process of moving the ball quicker. Now, you would say, duh, of course, that's what has to happen, right? But remember, this is Tyrod's first game with Tanner Engstrand calling plays. They were in a bad situation in the second half. So we shall see. And it's important to note because Justin Fields is still in the concussion protocol, okay? We'll see if he makes it out of concussion protocol for this game Monday night against the Miami Dolphins. But there is a chance that Tyrod is, back as our starting quarterback. He was efficient. I think they showed that they can move the ball. I think getting Josh Reynolds back would be huge. And being able to, again, you're going to hear me say this a lot this week, the idea of staying on schedule, that success percent metric is so important so that after first down, it's not, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 11. If we have 2nd and 6, that's a lot different than 2nd and 10. 3rd and 3, that's a lot different than 3rd and 8, right? So that ability to stay on schedule with the chains, I think then all of a sudden, Tyrod can be efficient. Then Tyrod can find guys underneath. We don't have to be in these 3rd and long, obvious passing situations where defenses can come after us. So we shall see. That's what I think needs to happen. But we do have these key injuries now. Remember, Sauce Gardner, concussion. Quincy Williams went down. We still have Justin Fields, Josh Reynolds on the offensive side. So we'll be monitoring that as well, okay? But we are showing this fight. Aaron Glenn still has faith. I think the Jets fan base needs to as well. So let's see if the Jets fan base does. I go into the comments of Jets Latest. Thank you so much to everybody growing the channel, liking the videos, watching the videos, subscribing. Tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. Peter Johnson, 2181, says, he still has faith. He goes, what some Jets fans don't understand is it takes time to learn to win games. That's what I've been saying here. They already complaining and will get Glenn fired at the end of the season and start the process again. Then complain more when Glenn goes to another team and makes the playoffs. Give him some time and then talk all you want. And 2 of those games were close games. I agree. I think you got to give it time. This is a process. Glenn has been talking about it. It is the second youngest roster in the NFL. We've been banged up. Also, our starting quarterback has been down. Our number 2 wide receiver has been down. We played that second half without our Pro Bowl linebacker. We lost the best cornerback in the game for that last drive when Baker Mayfield leads a kind of drive to get a field goal, right? So we've been banged up. We have to develop. This is what it's going to look like. And if Jets fans, I know people were all hyped, oh, we're going to win 12 games. I kept on saying, we're not going to win 12 games. We're not going to win 13 games. We're going to be a more competitive, more prideful team. And that is step 1. And I agree with Peter Johnson that is happening. Harry Coons, EP2VD, says, penalties is the Jets' killer, especially on defense. No more excuses. You're paid millions, not hundreds. I hear you. The penalties is something we got to address. Penalties and turnovers, okay? And Aaron Glenn had an emphasis on that in training camp. That has not happened yet. At -4 in the turnover margin, we're tied for 3rd worst. We continue to have penalties, and at bad times, 3rd and 29, the pre-snap penalties, that is something that has always been a focus for AG and something that is still rearing its ugly head. And then Bird Flu KFC says, this team needs an influx of secondary talent. The defense looks too suspect. I think we're getting pressure on the quarterback. I think we're okay, except in the secondary, I've seen it. Brandon Stevens has not developed. Maybe we see more Zaire Thomas. Let's see what Malachi Moore does, So I also, if you remember, when we were talking about these free agents after cutdown day, I said that I thought safety was a position of need. Guys like Justin Simmons were out there. I was saying it ain't about this number 2 wide receiver. It ain't about, everybody was worried about the guy next to Quentin Williams. We got Phillips. We got Briggs. I was saying safety was, I thought, the need, and it is still coming to pass. So we shall see about that. Thanks to everybody out there commenting. I always want to engage with you. You can hit me up on social media as well, at Spittin' Speeds. I love engaging with you. Hit me up in the comments. Become a Jets latest insider. And if you want more from me, the Spittin' Statistician Dane Martinez, you know this by now. I'm the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on SiriusXM, Channel 87. We're trying to help you win your leagues and win that cash. FTN has great tools. Waiver wire, wide receiver cornerback matchup tool, Stats Hub with all sorts of incredible stats, rankings, and all of that. And then I'm on air trying to help you as well. You could always call into the show as well. We will be back tomorrow, continuing to talk about what this Jets team looks and feels like, and starting to get a read on what we need to do against Miami. Remember, that's a Monday night football game, so we got 1 extra day of practice, hopefully 1 extra day for guys like Josh Reynolds, Justin Fields, Quincy Williams, Sauce Gardner. Those are 4 big-time starters for the Jets that we can hope are back in the fold for week 4 against Miami, or else it's going to be Tyrod again, and that secondary may be an issue if we don't have Sauce, and we got Tyreek Hill, and we got Jalen Waddle on the other side. But we'll talk about that for the rest of this week. For this episode of the Jets Latest, we out of here. Peace.